train one afternoon because Bob Marcellus and Sam Kershmalik talked me into getting a ticket on the train and going up to Rochester. So I went up with my little records and everything else, and I ended up in Dr. Hansen's office. And I had taken the test, and they were full up at that time. So I went into his office, and Dr. Larson said, well, we can't get you in now until 1951. So I ended up in Hansen's office and playing him a CD that I had done a transcription of Blue Skies by Irving Berlin, only a symphonic transcription, you know. And he listened to it, and he said, well, you're going to enjoy it here at Eastman. And I said, well, I can't get any because you're all full. He said, well, put down at the request of the director. That's how I got into Eastman. And I stayed there for 6 years in 4 summer schools. I mean, well, it was actually 5 years because from 1949 until 1956, all I had to do was study. Well, it was a great life. I mean, all I had to do was get up in the morning and go to school. And I got my bachelor's, my master's that way. And the GI Bill in those days was just remarkable. Bought everything for you. When that ran out, then I had fellowships. And so that's how I got my stuff with Eastman. But I left to go on the road to work with an R&B group to make some money, GRHA Trio. I was playing rhythm and blues for about 2 years, you know, in this little trio. And so consequently, I had to go back later to get my doctorate. But that's another story.
You know, most people who, well, I should say there are many people in the classical music world who don't appreciate popular music. And yet that never seemed to be an issue with you, even though your early training was mostly in classical. You just would kind of pick up, like you just left this
I was digging those, when I was 12, I was digging those gut-bucket piano players like Meat Like Lewis and Albert Evans and Pete Johnson. Those guys had hands that were identically the same to play everything that they were playing. And by the way, the boogie bit, that happened out of necessity because there was so much noise going on in the club that they figured they'd have to work up some kind of a thumping bass to cover up a lot of the noise. Everything for a reason, you know. But I remember there was this one thing by Pete Johnson called Death Ray Boogie that knocked me out when I was about 12 years old. That I just, and Shout for Joy, that was another one by Albert Evans. So my introduction in this small town of Tulare with blues was on records, you know, because nobody came to Tulare. I mean, it's in the middle of it's between Tipton and Fresno, you know, in the middle of California. And the only thing you do there is raise cotton and cattle, you know. That was it.
So Dr. Klefstad, you have taken all of these fantastic stories, which I know we've just gotten the tip of the iceberg, and turned it into this really beautiful, flowing narrative. So my final question for you is, how do you go about that process? How do you choose what stories to put in? How do you connect the dots? How do you get all this together?
So it wasn't just the interviews. I had a lot of archival sources. And I just started chronologically and kind of going from the beginning. I made timelines. I made lists of things. I spent a few weeks at Nashville Symphony in their archives getting program notes and concert reviews. So it was a matter of, I really don't know how you write a narrative like that other than just starting from the beginning and moving forward and corroborating all of these things with outside research. There's a lot of that going on. I went up to Sacramento and got in the California State Library and dug in there for stuff about his family and California performances. Yeah, lots of microfilm, guys. Not everything's online. I was still doing microfilm like 3 or 4 years ago.
I was an adopted kid, so
Yeah.
she went ahead and went out there to look up my real
Yeah.
background, you know.
And, you know, uncles and aunts and just finding all those names in the archives and weaving all those things together, sending emails to Eastman Alumni Center, asking questions with them, and Peabody Alumni Center, and going through the Nashville room. If you guys have not been to the Nashville Public Library, if you're really interested in the city, they have a whole room dedicated to the history of our city, and you need to go see it. They have a clippings archive from all the old newspapers. Bill's wife, Julie, was a writer, a newspaper writer for the Tennessee, and she has her own folders in there. And she was a speechwriter for the mayor, so she was a prominent person here in Nashville too, very well connected. And
She was the brains of the family.
yeah, she was amazing, and we miss her terribly. But just pulling together, that's what a researcher does, right? You grab your sources. And then I was lucky, Bill was moving, so he packed up his house that he lived in for 40 years. And he was so generous. He said, take it, just all of his documents, all of his business correspondence, all of his private letters.
In the basement.
He had a suitcase from his parents' house that was full of letters that were written mostly by his parents to him, asking him for letters. So I don't think he was as good a letter writer as his dad was. But I found a few letters written by him as well. And so just piecing together those dates, like one of the things was when exactly he was in the service, because we hear these wonderful stories, but then I've got to put the dates down. So finding his military discharge papers gave me concrete dates. Finding out when he was inducted into the military, getting those dates. Reading through just hundreds and hundreds of letters. I haven't given you that database yet. I need to do that. So I made a database of every letter, you know, date, to, from, topic. So it was years of just processing that information and then putting it into order. Anyway, there are lots of good stories, and it's not just the story of, you know, Bill's career, but of how you make a living as a musician in Nashville. And I think you all can learn from that, especially you all who are trying to build a career in music, you know. Just finding jobs and taking them as they come and being ready when they pop up, because Bill was always ready. I think that was the thing. When the opportunity arose, you know, he got a call from the Nashville Symphony. Can you play Gershwin with us in a few weeks? Sure, I can do that. And he practiced it up and performed, you know. It's also the story of that. Like, how do you make a living as a musician in America? And this was 20th century America. You guys are 21st century America, so it'll be different. But I think many of the same things transfer.
Well, I even got time to get my ticket for flying, you know, when I was here.
Yeah, he got his pilot's license. So
my first date with my wife, I flew her up to Clarksville for a hamburger. I was trying to impress her, but she wasn't impressed. She's been doing a lot of helicopter rides, you know, with the Tennessean on different stories, so it wasn't anything new. And I flew her up in a 172, a Cessna 172, but that was another part of my life that I think that if I had had the chance back in the military, and the thing that kept me from being a cadet was astigmatism, which today is not, you know, because it's not no issue. But my sight today, actually, with contact with I just had a cataract thing, but with glasses it's 2020 or 2015 and 2040 without glasses. So I could fly today. I really feel I could. I don't know if they would let me or not.
Probably not.
Do any of y'all have any questions for Dr. Purcell or Dr. Klefstad? Okay. Well, Crooked River City, if you haven't gotten it yet, go get it.
And take a look at the archival materials. There's Juvenilia. There's like some of Bill's compositions from his childhood out here. There's some of the albums he was on, some publicity photos. Ashley did a great job of picking out some really neat documents for you guys to look at. So take a peek.
definitely want to thank both of our guest speakers today. Y'all are fantastic, and this is so exciting for us. So. Thank you, everybody. And